When angle lifters are required, up to 12 degrees of angle may be used on conventional lifter design. When more travel is required, an angle of up to 15 degrees can be used by adding a guide pin. Lifter rods will be fastened to the lifter slides using a minimum 3/8 diameter self-locking screw. Lifter rod screw should be accessible via a clearance hole in back clamp plate so that lifter rod can be removed without taking the back plate off. Lifter rods to be hardened and ground steel shaft and guided by oil-impregnated bronze bushings. Deviation from round lifter rods requires approval from the Amer tooling engineer. Lifter pockets shall have a minimum of 3 to 5 degrees draft relative to the lifter travel. Large lifters are to have provisions for cooling with water fed through ejector plate. 2 lifter rod bushings are to be placed under lifter head and at the back in the core block. Refer to Figure 5 for a reference lifter rod bushing diagram. Purchased lifters. DME unilifters, or equivalent, must be a standard component. All components pocket must have an ID number, tool number, material type, hardness, and weight if over 50 pounds or 23 kilograms. Reference the recommended specification when installing these components. All deviations must be approved by the Amer tool engineer. Without the use of guide rods, a lifter rod angle up to a maximum of 12 degrees is acceptable for construction of angular lifters, see Figure 48. If the lifter angle 15 degrees maximum, guide rods must be used to prevent lifter bending. The guides rods should be mounted to the lifter body and anchored to the bottom of the core block and clamp plate. Angle lifters that are more than 15 degrees are not acceptable. Typical lifter construction technique for custom lifters. Spring steel lifters are not an option, unless approved by the Amer tool engineer and manufacturing site. Vent lifters whenever possible. Large lifters should have 2 rods for stabilization. Medium blue Loctite required on all lifter bolts. Do not include return springs on tools with pocketed lifters. Use gas springs or positive returns, see next page view E. Purchased cars carriers for lifters, or they can be manufactured by the tool supplier. Use a standard component that meet the requirements for manufacturing. All steel angle or straight lifter heads need to be cooled, if Amco heads are an option. It must be approved by the Amer tool engineer. Cooling channels must be drilled nearby the lifter. Review with a Amer tool engineer. Bearing surface of a lifter head, 25% engagement with water in the lifter head, 75% engagement without water in the lifter head. Lifter head is to be relieved 0.02 inch to 0.04 inch deep after engagement. All angle lifter heads must have the possibility to be disassembled at the ejector plates and ejection position. Clearance access hole through the clamp plate are required. All access holes must have cover plates. Review with the manufacturing site and tool engineer to supply press specifications. All bushing are to be bronze, no steel bushings. The bushing is to be within 1 inch of the lifter head pocket and as long as possible. Secured in with a socket head cap screw. All rods are made from Thompson shaft or equivalent. Rod shaft 1 inch diameter is the minimum. Smaller must be approved the Amer tool engineer. Rod end carrier must fit tight, fit with one side keyed with 0.15 inch flat on the shaft. Buried 0.25 inch into the car carrier body. At 0 to 90 degrees to the dowel. All lifter heads are to be doweled with a solid pin. Minimum shut-off requirement, flat shut-offs is 1/4 inch. Lifter pockets are to be 1 to 5 degrees more than the lifter angle, preferred is 5 degrees. Typical lifter rod design view E. Note: please inform the Amer tool engineer if tools needs a vector form lifter system. This is an issue should be negotiated and approved during the molded part design and the DFM reports. Tool designs should seek to remove all bar lifters from being used within the tool. Solution sets to remove the bar lifter along with associated cost and quality impacts must be provided to the Amer tool engineer. The mold builder is responsible to initiate a resolution process for part design issues that are not technically feasible without the use of bar lifters. Lifter rods need to be a minimum diameter of 1 inch, Any lifter rod that is less than this minimum requirement needs to be reviewed and approved by the Amer tooling engineer. Lifter rod bushings, lifter gibs, and lifter slide blocks require aluminum bronzeware plates. Gibs can also be made out of H13, 43 to 46 HRC, A2, 43 to 46 HRC, S7, 54 to 56 HRC, or O1, 52 to 56 HRC, steel with grease grooves. Thank you for your time. My name is Amer Janineh and please watch my other mold design videos.